Politics in Kenya is not a game.
So you're saying if you were alive today, Raila would have been on the ballot next year?
Raila was very clear in his mind that in 2027, we were going to take over power.
Emmanuel Tor, Citizen TV's inside man, now uncensored, unfiltered, unleashed.
Do you have a county in mind that you still remember that had the highest number of ghost workers?
Homa Bay comes to mind.
Your county?
We had a conversation with the governor because the governor's name also appeared on the list.
As a ghost worker? Well, a very good evening to you and welcome to Checkmate on Hot 96. We are on the road yet again, and this time around we are talking to the chairperson of the County Public Accounts Committee of the Senate. That is the Senator for Homa Bay, Moses Kajwang, and he's here to talk to us about the furore and the hula baloo that we've been hearing about the governors misusing the public funds in their counties, and he's going to tell us what the experience has been, because this is a watchdog committee of the Senate. And thank you very much, Senator, for your time. Tunashukuru sana kuwa hapa. And welcome to Hot 96.
Thank you.
Yes. So let's just start with what you have been able to do. We've seen several clips trending of governors being questioned about how they spend their money. And maybe if you could just tell us, when did you start these grilling sessions, and for how long do you intend them to continue?
Thank you. We are doing something that we haven't been able to achieve for a very long time, looking at the most recent financial statements. Over the years, we've been dealing with backlog. In fact, the National Assembly is still dealing with the financial statements that are 3 years old. Mm-hmm. If you want to do oversight, it needs to be timely. It needs to be current.
Yes.
That's when it is relevant. Mm-hmm. So right now, at the Senate, we are looking at the financial reports for counties for the most recent financial year, which is the year 2024-2025. Mm-hmm. Our experience in the past was you'd call a governor to explain how funds were used, and then they'll tell you, it wasn't me. They tell you, go and call the other governor. It has happened. When you are talking to Sonko, you tell us, Mimi sijui maneno, go talk to Kidero, or someone Kidero. We are talking to the governor of Machakos, Wavinya. She tells us, no, I know nothing about this. Go and look for Governor Mutua. This time, no governor can give an excuse that the report that we are discussing relates to a different period, because all of them have been in office for at least 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. So, that as a background means that every governor who appears before us cannot pass the buck to somebody else.
Yes.
Because even if things happened in the past, it is their responsibility to sort out that mess.
Yes.
So far, we have looked at a number of counties. We started our hearings in late January. Our intention is to have all governors appear before the Senate Public Accounts Committee.
All the 47 of them.
All the 47 governors, so that we are able to take a report to the House before the end of March. The Constitution requires us, once we receive a report from the Office of the Auditor General, to consider it within a period of 3 months. Now, the fundamental shift is this. In the past, when we used to deal with backlog, we would give recommendations. Those recommendations were not binding because they were done outside the constitutional timelines.
Yes.
And that's why you find Kenyans are frustrated, saying that Parliament has always been talking without action.
It's like a toothless dog.
It's like a toothless dog.
Yes, and we'll get to that.
It was because we were giving recommendations outside the constitutional timelines. This time round, we want to give recommendations within the constitutional timelines. And that will bind all the institutions that will refer matters to. Because after we have done all these conversations, we have asked the governors to defend themselves before our committee. We will write a report. We will make recommendations. The House will adopt those recommendations. And then the counties will have 60 days to implement our recommendations. Generally, from my analysis, 70% of the issues that come before us just require administrative action. But 30% of the issues are outright corruption, lawfulness, or imprudent use of public resources, which sometimes requires investigation and prosecution.
There's a lot of lawlessness in the counties.
Yes, in the counties.
In the 30% of the cases.
Yeah, in 30% of the cases. But
Okay.
I would say that 70% of the cases we come across just require some administrative action to be taken.
Okay. So how many governors have you been able to talk to or invite to your sessions so far?
This being our second week, we had targeted the first week we were to meet 10 governors, and I think out of the 10, about 4 of them sought postponement. And again, this week, by Friday, we should have met another 10. Of course, a few also have sought postponement. A few have also disappeared when they found that the room was too hot.
Yeah.
Wakaingia meeting.
Okay, let's talk about that because you're now getting into the substance of the interview. There was a case of a governor who came in when he was supposed to appear, he was not available. Which governor was that and what happened, really?
I think that was Tharaka Nithi. We dealt with that 2 days ago. It was quite unfortunate because we convened at 10 to start consideration of reports, starting with Kitui County, and we expected the governor, Tharaka Nithi, to come after. And when it was his turn to come in, he was missing in action. But I want to assure the residents of Tharaka Nithi that we will still call the governor and we will still hold him to account to explain how he utilized the billions. Remember, when it comes to sharing of revenue and sending money to the counties, the governors are usually very friendly to the Senate. In fact, whenever we are fighting with the National Assembly to send more money to counties, the governors are on our side. After they've spent the money 1 year later, some of them, their color and everything about them changes. So we want the enthusiasm they have at the point of division and distribution of revenue to be the same enthusiasm they have when it comes to accounting for revenue.
Okay.
And I think maybe the guy was scared, but I just want to assure the governors, if you're doing monkey business in the county, then you should be scared. You should be scared of the Senate because we shall expose...
that governor was involved in some monkey business?
No, I'm not saying he was involved in monkey business, but I'm just saying that if someone is doing monkey business, then he should be scared. Okay. If you're not doing monkey business, then the conversation here is usually very nice.
All right. So the governor in question, Muthomi Njuki, said that he was kept waiting for too long and he had to leave because your side was not really cooperating in terms of timekeeping.
I think that is a convenient excuse because those who were around knew that we started our meetings at 10 and that was the time that we had indicated we are going to start our meeting. You know that even in parliamentary parlance, there's something called the order paper. You cannot go to order number 5 before you are done with order number 1. So we are just going in a procedural manner. I think perhaps the right thing that you ought to have done was to seek the indulgence of the chair so that we don't have to walk around in toilets and in corridors of parliament looking for him. At some point, we thought that maybe he may have been abducted because you cannot just assume that someone has disappeared. He may have been abducted. But I'm happy that I've learned that he's back in the county. There are always some of these games. Some governors sometimes even go to court. Some governors sometimes check themselves in hospital. Some governors have written, I think the governor of Garissa, saying that he would be out of the country. And yet the same week we saw him attending another committee meeting. So you see, this thing, it's just like kids who have not done their homework. They will look for every excuse not to appear before the teacher.
Okay. So for this case, as we wrap that part up, have you given him another date?
Yes, under the circumstances, we considered issuing summons, but I'm still reviewing with my legal team to see whether it's a situation that warrants summons. But the bottom line is that he will have to appear. Of course, the consequences of an appearance is that if he does not appear, we summon him. If we summon him and he doesn't come, we fine him. And if we, again, after that, he does not appear, we ask the Inspector General of Police to find him, arrest him, and bring him before the committee. It is a power that is bestowed on us by the Constitution and statute. In fact, right now, we have an active matter where we have asked the Inspector General of Police to find the governor of Samburu and bring him before the committee. Of course, the Inspector General of Police acknowledges that Parliament has that power, And he wrote back to us telling us that he's still trying to find the governor of Samburu. I mean, it sounds like a game, but next week on Thursday, the Inspector General of Police will come before the committee and we'll have that conversation on how he can ensure that when we give directions for him to find and produce somebody, he does it without delay.
Okay. We've seen in media reports, and I've been part of those people covering some of the committees that you chair, of some governors using the money they were given in some they use some tricks to cheat the system. And we've seen cases of a governor using money to light up a Christmas tree and all that. Maybe could you just tell us some of these tricks that governors probably, allegedly, use to siphon money from the public coffers?
Well, there are some stories which, if you listen to, it makes you feel bad about the things happening in counties. I think some of them have been in the public domain, where money was diverted from the county executive to finance a housewarming. And those were the records of the county.
That was Vihiga County.
That was Vihiga County. And I think that was quite unfortunate, because Vihiga is one of those counties, we call them small counties, and we usually feel that we are not giving them enough money. And so the little that we give them, if it is to be diverted to those kind of activities, it makes devolution look bad. We saw another case where a governor diverted money meant for construction of an aggregation and industrial park. And by her own admission, she said she was under pressure to finance some border initiative.
That was governor for Embu?
That was Embu.
Cecily Mbarire.
Yeah, of course, it is on record that we acknowledged her honesty and the fact that she made commitments to get the money back. We saw a county lighting up a Christmas tree in September at a cost of 3.6 million. You would expect that some of those things, because we borrow some traditions from other jurisdictions. At White House, they light up a Christmas tree. I think the governor of Nairobi also lights up a Christmas tree. It's been a tradition.
Yeah.
But you'd expect that by the time you're lighting up a Christmas tree, even if it was your household, you've already done shopping for the kids. You've already bought the food. You've already paid the fees. You've already done the basics. But counties are doing this kind of expenditure without covering the basics. You don't have sufficient drugs in hospitals. You don't have water for everybody. You don't have roads. You don't have markets. You don't have ECDs. So some of these extravagant expenditure ideally should come after we have covered the base. Now, those are some of the, I would call them primitive looting strategies. There are others like planting of seedlings. And then when the auditor comes, you say that there was drought and that the seedlings died.
That's the case with Mandera County.
Yeah, that's the case with Mandera. I think there was a county the years back spent a lot of money on fish fingerlings. And then they said that they put the fingerlings in the river so that they could grow, and then the fishermen can catch them.
Which county? Is it your county?
No, that was Tharaka-Nithi.
Tharaka-Nithi?
Years back. I think it was under a different administration. And when the auditors came, they say the fish swam downstream, so there was nothing to audit. We have seen counties spending millions of shillings in clearing of, I think that was Mandera some years back. They cleared a weed called madenge, and they spent millions of shillings. And when the auditors came, they were told, yes, there was madenge here, but we cleared them. So that's where the money went.
And there was no madenge in the first place? Or some
now it was arguable. They produced some photos of madenge. And when the auditors came, there was no madenge.
Yeah.
And the guy said, of course, there's no madenge because we cleared them.
Okay.
So, and it was hundreds of millions of shillings. These are things that make devolution look very, very bad. Then there are other more constructive ways that they use, cleverer ways. For example...
Because I know there are cases where hata wewe mwenyewe ukiangalia unasema hapa ni ngumu, siwezi mshika mtu amejificha sana, and you can't get them. Which are some of those cases that this is outright theft, but you can't prove it?
Sometimes they take advantage of pending bills. And that's why most governors, for them, pending bills is a moving target. Because they can always argue that some work was done 4 or 5 years ago. Invoices have been found, and they can work on the paper trail and put in a bill of 20 million. And since we as a Senate, we want pending bills to be paid, we will be pushing for them to be paid, only for it to end up in pockets of people who are colluding. So that's usually a little bit difficult to capture, because when it comes to pending bills, we've just looked at a county today that had pending bills of 5 billion as at the close of the year. A county whose revenue is 6 billion. So 80%, yes, was classified as pending bills. And of the 5 billion, almost 2.6 billion was 3 years old. 3 years old. So it's sitting there. It will have to be paid. How do you go and confirm that a road that was done 5 years ago was done at 50 million? You have to rely on the paperwork,
yes,
because there's nothing to see. So that has been a way of stealing public funds. Another route has been legal fees. You know, Nairobi has one of the biggest legal fees. It's running into billions. You hear maybe one advocate is owed $1 billion plus by Nairobi City County. And we feel like there is some collusion within the legal profession when it comes to taxation of invoices and costs. It is something that we need to bring in the Law Society of Kenya and perhaps the Office of the Attorney General to ensure that some of those legal expenses are reviewed, analyzed, taxed properly so that we reduce the burden. Because in as much as there's Advocates Remuneration Act,
yes,
some of the bills that legal firms are sending to counties are completely unacceptable. And I thank the High Court for declaring that public entities should not engage private firms for legal work, because that is a service that the Attorney General can provide, and in counties, the county attorneys can provide that service.
Yeah.
I hope it can, stop this hemorrhage of public funds going to legal firms.
Okay.
Then there's also the old primitive way of ghost workers, payrolls that have ghosts in them, people earning salaries, but you can never find them.
Like, do you have a county in mind that you still remember that had the highest number of ghost workers?
Homa Bay comes to mind.
Your county?
We had a conversation with the governor. They did an audit. PricewaterhouseCoopers did an audit and listed all the ghost workers, listed all the employees in service without the required documentation. And I remember it was quite an interesting conversation because the governor's name also appeared on the list.
As a ghost worker?
And she
when was
very,
this?
That was the last appearance of the governor before my committee. Of course, she was not listed as a ghost worker, but she was on a list of staff without staff without complete documentation. So,
and that report was brought to you?
She's the one who brought it. She's the one who came with it. And she started by saying she owns the report and she agrees with the report until she found a name on the report. And then now it had to be, taken back.
What was the defense?
I think at the end of the day, she said that the report had some flaws. But the indication of a problem is that my county, Homa Bay, the wage bill is almost at 55% of total revenues. That is extremely high.
What is the recommended amount?
Recommended is 35.
35.
So we are 20% above. Oh. So when you're at 55% on wage bill, and the assembly is getting an average of 10%, already 65%, 2/3 of your revenue is locked up in things that do not, produce value directly. So you're remaining with a very, very limited resource envelope to build roads and markets and such things.
For development.
Yeah, so we've seen HR also being abused. And obviously procurement. And procurement, what we have started doing is that the heads of procurement in counties are supposed to be members of the Institute of Supply Chain Managers. So we have started changing the conversation that where there are procurement irregularities, we are telling the Institute of Supply Chain Managers to take disciplinary action on those officers, because they become very crafty in terms of manipulating the evaluation committees, and those are ad hoc, amendment of contracts, variation of contracts, and they always play within the maximum allowable limit. So you find if the law requires variation not to exceed 15%, they will vary it to 14.9. If the law requires direct procurement to be items should not apply to items above 5 million, they will split contracts to 4.9 million so that they can do direct procurement. So we have seen through some of those games. So the window for mischief is there in county governments. Progressively, we must tighten the laws. Progressively, we must demonstrate that if you break the law and if you steal money, there'll be action taken against you. And I think when people start seeing action, they're going to be hesitant.
Okay. So from what you have observed over time, I think, how long have you been chair for CPAC?
In the 13th Parliament, I've been chair from the first session. And in the 12th Parliament, I was also chair for half of the term of that Parliament.
So like 2.5 plus now almost 3.5.
Yeah.
So a total of about 6 years being chair. Of course, you've seen a lot in that area.
Yes.
Which are these counties that, in your view, stand out as the worst in terms of using those games to steal from the public coffers? And it doesn't mean that you have any vendetta with anybody, but from the observation that you've made.
I think I need to be careful so that when I say county, I don't necessarily mean the governor.
Yes. Because
sometimes people get sensitive that ukigusa Mrima, then you're referring to someone in particular.
Yeah.
Maybe Nairobi has serious financial problems because they have a huge pending bill. A lot of that are legal fees or contributions to pension funds. Nairobi today, if you are to retire as an employee, chances are you will not get your pension because the county has not been remitting statutory contributions to the pension funds. In fact, at some point, they had to do an asset swap. They had to take one of the estates and give it to one of the pension funds. I think it was either CPF or LAP fund to clear the outstanding debts. So Nairobi, of course, as the biggest county, has got the biggest fiduciary risks arising from pending bills, arising from legal fees, unremitted statutory deductions, and also a very high wage bill. Of course, Nairobi has got pressure on service.
For the size.
Mm-hmm. Nairobi also, in terms of optimization of on-source revenue, we do not feel that they are doing the best. There are feelings that they are probably collecting and not reporting, because Nairobi cannot be at 13 billion a year if you see all the economic activities happening here.
Mm-hmm.
So
how much do you think they should be collecting from the committee?
I think Nairobi usually budgets to collect 30 billion.
Oh.
By their own estimates, 30 billion. And then when they collect 13, 14 billion, they're happy. But the Commission on Revenue Allocation puts Nairobi's on-source revenue potential far above that 30 billion. In fact, if Nairobi is well managed, it can collect sufficient revenue to finance its recurrent operations. But as things stand today, whatever Nairobi collects is barely enough to pay salaries, and it has to rely on the equitable share. So I think Nairobi is a special case. It's a capital city. It has a lot of historical problems, but I am not convinced that the governors have paid a lot of attention on the fiduciary risks that it faces. Another county, randomly, we have seen a county like Turkana, and we were in Turkana a year or two back for Senate Mashinani. We saw a number of projects, grand projects, that have stalled, that are becoming white elephants. We went to the governor's residence. We found that 200 million had been spent, and the building was still at foundation level. I mean, if you gave me 200 million to build a house, surely 200 million can build several schools.
Yes.
200 million can build 4 secondary schools at 50 million each. But you're told 200 million, iko hapo for
foundation.
And we have made recommendations to the EACC to investigate and recommend prosecution of those involved. And it's just taking long, and I think it's becoming a bit frustrating.
Yes.
And you see, these are things that perhaps happened in all regimes, and these people have probably left office. There are other counties with very unhealthy indicators on fiscal responsibility. For example, I said Homa Bay is at 55% on wage bill, which...
Is it the highest in terms of wage bill? When
you compare it with peers, because you compare Homa Bay with Siaya. Siaya is at 30-something. Migori is at 30-something. Busia is at 30-something, maybe going to 40. Kisumu is at 40-something, but Kisumu is a city with service pressure.
Yes.
So you find that Homa Bay has a very unhealthy, wage bill.
And most of those people are ghost workers.
I mean, it is likely, and because that's what PricewaterhouseCoopers said in their survey.
Right.
So there are a number of examples. There are some counties with huge pending bills, like the county we dealt with today, Nyandarua. They closed the year at 5 billion, but even though they reduced that, you still have almost 2.5 billion, which is 3 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a mix, and really it's not just about the current governor. Some of them are historical issues that have been carried over the years. But one area where I think all the counties are not doing a great job is on revenue collection. I believe that most counties are lazy in collection or dishonest in collection. And I think more of them are dishonest, where people collect and don't report. A few days ago, we were talking about Kitui and CES. The numbers they put in their financial statements could indicate that they only collect CES from 5 trucks in a day. But we live in this country, we can see the activities, the sand mining activities in Kitui. A lot of the projects done in Nairobi real estate, the sand is coming from Kitui. So it tells you that they are collecting money and maybe pocketing. Yeah. And I think the governor also admitted when he came before us that there are some cartels that he has not been able to deal with.
Or maybe it's part of the... Anyway, so Chairman, what about the best performing counties? Because you're given the list of the worst in terms of financial expenditure and all that, which are the best in terms of what you've observed?
Again, going by the financial analysis, not necessarily by the governor, Makueni has demonstrated some fiscal discipline. In fact, in this financial year, they had an unqualified opinion, meaning that they presented their financial statements well. It does not mean that there are no issues. There are still a few issues of lawfulness, of internal controls, a few issues of governance. But by and large, they are able to present financial statements that reflect a true state of affairs of the county. We have seen a county like, I think Murang'a. Murang'a also seems to have fairly good indicators on fiscal responsibility and fiscal management. And also, I remember at the devolution conference in Homa Bay, the governor came and did a demo on their revenue collection systems, how real time it was, and how they were using it to make decisions in real time. Yeah. Another county is Kiambu. Despite all the negative vibes coming out of Kiambu, that's why I said it's not about the governor, it's about the county. We have seen in reports Kiambu County has been able to expand its network of health facilities such that in every sub-county you've got a level 4 hospital. Nyandarua today was telling us that they have only one level 4 in an entire county. Now in Kiambu, in every sub-county, we have seen a level 4 hospital built, we have seen markets built, and we are seeing a few initiatives that appear to be transformative on ECD. And one would say that the politics and the noise is not proportional to the development on the ground. Another county that I could cite is probably Kwale, and we were with them yesterday. They are able to do some things that some counties have never thought of. For example, they are now building a library in every sub-county. How many counties are building libraries? Most counties just inherited the old libraries that they found.
Yeah.
There are no books, there's nothing. And yet, in civilized societies, I mean the Romans, even the Anglo-Saxons, whenever they established a settlement, there are certain things that were a constant. You'd have a town hall, you'd have a public square with perhaps a library, you'd have museums, you'd have monuments, you'd have some things. So things like library are signs of civilization. But many counties don't want to invest in those kind of things.
Okay.
So we've seen counties like Kwale.
And many more.
Yes, yes.
All right. Have you ever received a call from a governor or governors telling you, hey, report yangu ni chafu kidogo, can you help me? Have you received such calls?
Yes, I have.
Like how many?
I have. I mean, it's, you see, this is not, our job is not just to discipline, our job is also to correct. And a governor might call me and tell me, we have a problem with this particular matter as reported by the Auditor General, but I would like to put it in context, even before I come before the committee. And a governor can explain so that I have a background, so that when we go in there, we can bring it that background to be able to contextualize the matter. And I do not see anything wrong in that.
Okay.
Particularly, I've had cases where a governor would tell you that, you know, at the time of audit, we had this and that challenge. So we were not able to effectively address or respond to this matter. In as much as in my committee proceedings, I don't like taking in new evidence.
Yes.
Sometimes we are compelled to consider that additional evidence. And if the Auditor General agrees, then we can be able to settle the matter.
All right.
So yes, I do not look at the governors as my adversaries. And I also, because you see, beyond being the chair of this committee, I am, for example, the senator representing the people of Homa Bay.
Yes.
And when my governor has a challenge with certain issues, fiscal issues, operational issues, strategic issues, she's free and she's very, you know, it's all right for her to call.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do not, I wouldn't say that the calls that sometimes I receive from the governors are meant to prejudice. They are generally meant to provide a different dimension to the issues. And once we have that dimension, we put it on the table.
All right.
We have the EACC there, we have the OAG there, the Treasury, and a team of very accomplished gentlemen and lady.
Yes.
So we just discuss it.
We'll talk about the gentleman and lady. And maybe governors are up in arms. They're saying that you have been relying on information from the Auditor General, sometimes which is not updated, up to date. And maybe before we talk about the governors, are there instances where the reports are erroneous themselves?
Yeah, there are some times we have even told the auditor to go back and do a better job. We did that in Busia. There's a time when Senator Mtata was a member of my committee. We took the Auditor General to task because we felt the report was shallow. And we pointed out the provisions of the Constitution that requires the Auditor General to establish whether public funds have been used lawfully and prudently. And we felt that that report was more on lawfulness rather than prudence. And the Auditor General made a commitment that she would go back and do a more thorough job.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But right now, the governors are talking, and there are some of them who've appeared in your committee have raised a few complaints, especially on how you handle them. Some of them say you harass them in the committee. Perhaps, what would you tell them at this moment?
I think if they feel that I harass them, next time they will...
Are there such cases? Have they come to you complaining?
No. But I would, I mean, if it came to my attention that I harass them, I would willingly yield the seat to Senator Sifuna to run the committee so that we can have a taste of different styles and different temperaments. We are firm, or I am firm, but I'm also fair to the governors. And that's why I allow them to explain. I allow them to submit their evidence, even though ideally in the Senate, ideally they should not be bringing evidence to the Senate, because that evidence should have been presented to the Auditor General. We are fair, but we are firm.
All right.
You see, we have built a culture in this country where the minute you are called Your Excellency, the governor, you believe you're above the law. And you believe nobody should question your actions. And nobody is doing it. The county assemblies have been muzzled and intimidated into silence. Civil society in respective counties have been intimidated, and some of them are now accomplices of the governors.
Okay.
Nobody else, no other institution can question the 47 excellencies. And so they find it odd when they come to Nairobi that someone can ask them questions. And really, I remember when we were with Orengo in the Senate, he used to say that the day governors are uncomfortable about you, they know you are doing your job. And if they are happy with you, then maybe you guys are in bed.
All right. There's something that you mentioned to us during the committee, that these governors, many of them who make a lot of noise, are hiding something, or maybe their records are not very clear, and the quiet ones are the ones working. Is that so, from the observation?
I think so. Pollsters have been ranking counties using the popularity of the governors. So you're told that the best performing county, probably Trans Nzoia, because the governor is vocal and is a kingpin in that area, or Homa Bay because my governor is chairperson, charismatic, or Embu because the governor is the chairperson of the ruling party. But we want to look at the fundamentals. That fine, you might have the best public relations. You might have the biggest publicity footprint. But when it comes to the numbers, what is the percentage of pending bills to your total revenues? What is the size of your liabilities compared to your assets? How much are you putting in compensation of employees? How much are you putting into development? Numbers don't lie, and those figures are in the financial statements.
Okay.
And that is why we want to use the Parliamentary Budget Office to do a fiscal responsibility ranking of counties, not a political popularity ranking. And you will find that they will be inversely proportional, that the most politically popular might be the least fiscally responsible.
Probably, could you talk to us about the composition of your members? Because we've seen members of your committee are very vocal. We see them trending on TikTok, X, everywhere. Who are the members of your committee?
I'm privileged to lead that kind of team. I have a very, very strong team. People with great accomplishments. I've got a former president of the Law Society of Kenya. I've got the Okongo Mogeni. I've got the Secretary General of the ODM party. I've got a senior leader in the Wiper Democratic Movement, Senator Wambua. I've got the deputy whip of the majority, Senator Lelegwe. I've got the whip of the Jubilee Party in the Senate, Senator Dulo. I've got the vice chair of ODM, Senator Mwaruma. I've got, Senator from Tharaka Nithi. I've got... I am proud of the team that I lead. I would call it a team of extraordinary gentlemen and lady.
Okay.
Prior to that...
Samson Cherargei as well.
Yeah, Samson Cherargei, who's usually very active and very spirited.
Yes.
Prior to that, we were with Senator Omtata, we were with Senator Methu, we were with Senator Onyonka, and Senator Mariam, who is a nominated senator. It's not easy to lead.
Yes, especially I see sometimes Cherargei and Sifuna on the other side exchanging friendly fire because I feel like it's just friendly. How do you balance all those very strong points of views?
I think the important thing is to draw the line between what we do on top of vehicles and in funerals and in rallies over the weekend and what is before us. And I've tried, and so far we've been quite successful in ensuring that when we're in that room, we are not one term or two term. We are not supporters or opponents of government. Okay. We are all defenders and supporters of devolution who are looking out or looking to weed out the people who are frustrating devolution.
Okay.
So we try as much as possible to leave our
objective.
political affiliations outside, so that when we come in, it is about our defense, our love, and our commitment to devolution. And I think so far we might not have succeeded 100%, but to a great extent, my team understands that that is the brief when we go in there.
Okay. Governors are saying that these recommendations you're doing, the reports, everything you're doing, is just for you're playing to the gallery, and that you're a toothless dog. After all, you just write a report. What measures are you taking to ensure that after you find that this governor has done this, there's legal recourse to it?
In the past, that would have been a valid or a semi-valid observation. Because as I've said, in the past we used to deal with backlog. You'd find us in the year 2026 dealing with reports of 2,000. As I said earlier, I've been a chair of this committee for quite some time. When I started, I used to deal with backlog. You'd find 5 or 6 years have not been addressed. Today, we are on top of the game. Today, we are dealing with the most recent. In fact, we are dealing with reports that were brought to Parliament on 31st of December. Already, we are considering them. In the next 2-3 weeks, we'll start churning out our reports. The difference this year is that reports and recommendations that are made within the constitutional timeframes are binding. There was a matter in Nairobi City County where the County Assembly made recommendations, recommended investigation of some officials, and declared them unfit to hold public office. Those officers rushed to the courts, and the court said they agreed with the petitioners that recommendations made outside constitutional timelines are null and void. This time we are making recommendations within constitutional timelines, and we have realized we've got so much power. We can declare someone unfit to hold public office. We can propose debarment of someone from public procurement. In fact, some of the governors wish to become CSs. When they come for vetting in Parliament, there's usually a question: have you ever been indicted, or has any adverse recommendation been made against you by Parliament?
A parliamentary committee.
By a parliamentary committee. This time round, if we make an adverse recommendation against you, just know that it's going to show up when it comes to vetting.
Okay.
So they might be thinking about the past regime. This time round, we are doing things according to the law, and our recommendations, even if we recommend to the EACC, DPP, or any other body, they are constitutionally mandated to take action.
Okay, because we know that you don't have powers to arrest or to prosecute. Probably, have you worked with any other government entities to have some of the clients that come to your committee to be, or some of those who have been arrested? Do you have any case that you can link it to your committee?
Yeah, we have a tight partnership with the EACC. Just this week, I saw the Busia governor was called to record a statement. And what went to the public was that it was in response to Senate recommendations. Remember, we were in Busia for Senate Mashinani. We went around looking at projects, and there was a huge uproar on certain issues. So we can clearly see that leading to action. And I think in several other cases, in Marsabit, about 2 years ago, after the governor left the Senate, 2-3 days later, he was forced to record statements due to the issues that were discussed at the Senate. But what we want to do with EACC is to have quarterly discussions so that we are able to track to what extent they are implementing our recommendations. Okay. I have an EACC officer who sits in my committee, and we also want to see them shorten the time they take on investigations. And that's why I'm saying if we make our recommendations within the constitutional timelines, we can also bind them to do investigations within a certain time frame.
All right.
If audit can be done within 90 days, then investigations can also be done within 90 days. Yeah. And I think that's where we want to head to, so that when we recommend to EACC to investigate, within 90 days or 60 days they're done, they forward the file to DPP or they close the file. Okay.
Let's now shift the gears briefly to, because you also come from a political party, ODM. Probably from your point of view, what's happening in ODM?
ODM is in a situation where the shepherd is not there, the shepherd that has taken care of the flock for the longest, the shepherd that has raised the flock is not there. And so the sheep start scattering in different directions. It is natural. We have a new shepherd to take care of the flock, but probably the flock is not used to the new shepherd the same way they are used to the shepherd that raised it. And so some sheep might scatter, jump over the fence, or defy the new shepherd. It is natural. Raila Odinga was a colossus. He didn't influence only ODM, he influenced the politics of the nation. And his absence it screams, his absence screams. He was like a giant tree that shielded and hosted all sorts of animals, snakes and birds and cats and everything. And so when the tree falls, then the snakes start eating the birds, and the squirrels start eating the birds, and the squirrels start eating the snakes. It is natural. We are still mourning, even though it's now a couple of months, but a man who has been with us politically for so long, it is not, you can't recover and replace him immediately. But I think we have done well. We have done well. Our party leader, Senator Oburu, has done fairly well to stabilize the ship. Otherwise, the ship could have sunk. You know, Raila stabilized the ship and he could steer the ship to a certain direction. For now, I feel like Oburu has done a good job in stabilizing the ship and not sinking it. We are still struggling on which direction now to follow, but at least the ship is stable.
The concerns of some people who want to kick out your Secretary General, the member of your committee, from the position of SG of ODM, would you support such sentiments?
I think there has to be a procedure for removal of a senior leader of the party. You cannot just scare or bully or cyberbully someone to leave an office that is in legally and properly. If there are people with concerns about the effectiveness of the Secretary General, I think that can be processed through the relevant party structures, which includes the National Delegates Conference. I support those who are calling for a National Delegates Conference. We need it. We need it. The fact that Raila Odinga is not there means it's not business as usual. And when it's not business as usual, you need to call your delegates. You see, if you are able to throw a party in Mombasa for ODM at 20, then there's nothing that stops us from having a National Delegates Conference. It is in that convention that we can also reaffirm our support for Senator Oburu and the rest of the senior leadership who were appointed recently. And it is also in that conference that the delegates can then take a position on whether the general, or the Secretary General of the party is the right general to lead us into the next battle.
Okay, so you don't support the cause to kick him out, or you support?
No, I do not support extra legal or kangaroo approaches, because there are some people who might want to do what was done to Margaret Lagat. I think those are extra legal kangaroo tactics that have got no time, have got no value in our current political dispensation.
Okay.
But I must also say that Raila Odinga encouraged free debate and diversity in thought and perception. But we must draw a line between diversity, freedom of expression, and outright contempt. We must ask ourselves if some of the conversations that are going on is an expression of free will, it's an expression of thought, or utter contempt for the position that the party has taken. We must ask ourselves, if you are the general of an army and the commander-in-chief, you feel the commander-in-chief is illegitimate, will you be confident in attacking the enemy If you're the general of an army and you have a problem with the team that sits around your commander-in-chief, will you be able to take instructions and execute them? So I think...
Are you talking about Sifuna?
Yes, the general of our party, the secretary general of the party. I mean,
are you saying he's being contemptuous to
I'm
party
saying,
leader?
I'm saying we must apply our minds and ask ourselves whether even some of the comments that my friend made on TV a few days ago, whether it constitutes freedom of speech, freedom of thought, or it is contempt.
In your view, it is contempt?
I think it's borderline contempt.
Which part? Because he said, one, you can't, the installation of Oburu was unprocedural. He said that. He also said that being the party leader of ODM does not guarantee you to be the flag bearer. Are you saying those are contemptuous comments?
No.
Or what part of his discussion?
I think there are two things. When we went for ODM at 20, Oburu took an oath to be the party leader of ODM. It was administered by the Secretary General. Oburu's nomination in the Central Committee was done by the deputy party leaders, Simbarati and Governor Abdul Swamad. So to revise those events and say that it is the deputy party leaders who should have taken over, and yet it is the deputy party leaders who recommended that Dr. Oburu becomes the party leader, I think is to try to reopen a matter that has already been settled. To say that Oburu is in office illegitimately would also be to spite the oath that you gave him. As to who becomes our party leader is correct, that when it comes to the time for deciding who becomes our party leader, the contest will be thrown open. I remember there's a time when that was done and Simbarati submitted his papers to challenge Raila for party leader.
Yes.
It has been done before. There's a time when it was thrown open, and I remember William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi back then also put in their bid to become party leader. So to become presidential candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for the presidential candidate, that is a matter that will be dealt with as we approach the next election.
Okay.
But as to the legitimacy of Senator Oburu's appointment, I think that is a bridge that we have crossed that we should not revisit.
And that he is legitimately in office?
Yes.
All right. As acting?
Yes, as acting. Of course, he will be affirmed at the NDC. At the NDC, maybe the delegates can say, no, we don't like Oburu, we want somebody else. But for now, out of pragmatism, you can imagine if there was a vacuum in ODM. Just a small situation where Raila was going to Addis Ababa, when he wanted to be the chairman of the AU Commission. You saw the kind of jostling, the running up and down, and the chaos that was there.
And Baba had to give it to
Professor Nyong'o.
Nyong'o to be acting.
That's when things stabilized. Because all the young people, everyone was moving around. Everyone wanted to be a kingpin of his own village. So I think it was wisdom to ensure that there was no vacuum. If there would have been a vacuum, imagine the kind of jostling that would have been there. We would be having perhaps 47 versions of ODM, everyone taking a piece, depending on the county they come from.
So Dr. Oburu has stabilized the ship. And do you think he's the right guy for that job now?
To stabilize the ship, I think is a
Maybe
good bet.
To continue?
Could there be better people? Definitely yes. Dr. Oburu himself believes that this party should be steered and run by younger people. And he sees himself more as a transitional party leader. He's very clear in his mind. I mean, he's Raila's age mate, older by a year, and he knows that he cannot be there forever. So it is now upon us, the younger cadres in the party, to ensure that we step up and offer that leadership. And everyone is eligible, including the Secretary General. But even as we do it, we should do it mindful that some of the messages we send confuse our people. Our people are now not clear which direction to go, which faction or which side of ODM to support, because there are one-termers in ODM, there are two-termers in ODM, And there are those also who want ODM to present a presidential candidate.
Exactly, and that's where I was coming now. Are you satisfied with the comments, or do you support the comments by your party leader that you're not even looking for the deputy position, meaning you're okay not presenting a presidential candidate? Is that what you support?
I think it is a comment that needs to be brought back for review, because if we say we do not want to be deputy to William, it might mean that we want to be the president. Who said that's the only option? Or maybe we want to be deputy to Kalonzo. It does not mean that that's the only option we have. In fact, people should now start looking at it from that perspective. What are these guys up to? They are saying they don't want to be William's deputy.
Okay.
Maybe they want to be somebody else's deputy or somebody else's president.
Who would fit that position of deputy to Ruto? Gladys?
The deputy president, from what we have seen, a deputy president can be impeached if they don't work closely with the president. And so you can't force a president to pick someone as a deputy. We impeached Rigathi the other day. Oduol from Siaya was brought to us for impeachment, deputy governor. Deputy Governor Kisi was brought to us for impeachment. You force a president to take someone as a deputy president, chances are you're going to impeach them. So I do not think it is something that we can just say that because so and so is loud and popular, let them be. It has to be someone who can synergize with the presidency. But look, ODM as a movement has existed because it gives hope to the people that we can acquire power and use that power to change the lives of the people. I believe that's where our focus should remain.
Okay.
This parliament, this presidency, just before Raila died, it was ODM that was holding parliament. In fact, before Raila died, Raila angepinduka tu kidogo, alafu impeachment iletwe on William Ruto, it would have gone the same way the one on Gachagua went. So ODM has got this huge stabilizing influence on government, but since the demise of Raila, we seem to be suffering from low self-esteem. Now we are small. There's a time we used to say that if William Ruto wants our support, akuja vae orange. But now, you can't even imagine that. If you saw the kind of jamboree he was doing yesterday at State House, if you see the number of people he's recruited as aspirants across the country. We are saying we want some zones to be ring-fenced. But everything that the president is doing indicates that he's going for nothing less than 100% domination by the UDA party. So I think we need to smell the coffee. The elections are still 1 year and several months away. There is still enough time for us to reorganize ourselves, work on our self-esteem as a party. We are a strong party, but since Raila left, our self-esteem has sunk. We have become simps. We are simping, running around, running after the president, going into presidential events, not organizing our own things, getting money from the president to do our own activities. And you know, we are going into the Valentine's week. Simps don't do well on Valentine's week.
Okay, lastly, one term, two term, which part are you on? Which side?
I think personally, I am yet to join any of those bandwagons of 1 term or 2 term. When Raila was alive, I was very, very clear in my mind.
1 term.
When Raila was alive, we were clear in our minds.
Which part?
And to be honest, the people who say that Raila was not planning to run for presidency are lying through their teeth.
You think Raila would have run in 2027?
Well, he was making all the arrangements. He was
Really?
making all the arrangements to run.
What do you know that we don't know?
Well, I don't want to
What
be...
arrangements was he making?
I don't want to be those people who say Raila told me this, Raila told me that.
Came to me in my dream.
Including people who 1 year down the line you can't trace where they were. As I've told you, I've been in the Senate for 10 years. And when I got into the Senate, I received a serious bashing because they were saying I was Raila's boy, Raila's puppet, which I willingly took. So probably there's a lot that I shared with Raila or that I observed in Raila. Raila knew that he was working with William to stabilize the country. And I think that was great. That was a mark of patriotism. It was a rare gesture at a time when the presidency was almost on its last strand for Raila to reach out to strengthen it. And I think that will be one of his biggest legacies. Leave alone the handshake with Uhuru, leave alone even of course, the one he did with Kibaki was also monumental because people were dying. But he knew that a political party, a political movement is only valid if it pursues power to change the lives of the people. And Raila's last speeches and comments were about strengthening ODM, strengthening the party, so that the party can either stand on its own or look for partners with whom it can form government. Raila was very clear in his mind that in 2027, we were going to take over power. And we are going to take over power by working with like-minded friends and like-minded formations. And he had no time, at no time did he tell us that it was going to be two-term. He had a problem with the one-term brigade, particularly the tribal chauvinists within the one-term brigade. He had a problem with them. And recall when he went to bury Phoebe Asio, the former MP, he had no kind words for the one-term brigade, particularly that branch that is that thinks just about a region and thinks just about a community. He said, that cannot be an ideology that pushes Kenya forward. So he had no kind words for them. He was kinder to the people who wanted to bring the country together. But that did not mean that it was an endorsement of the president's re-election.
Okay, so you're saying if you were alive today, Raila would have been on the ballot next year?
Yes, if Raila was alive today, he would be making arrangements to strengthen his position ahead of the next elections. He would be strengthening the ODM party. And as I said, before his death, ODM was like the most vibrant political party. Yeah. And when he left the scene, we suffered, we mourned, and our self-esteem, went down. So if Raila was alive today, ODM would be vibrant, ODM would be strong, ODM would be speaking with one voice, ODM would have clarity of vision, and ODM would be engaging friends, irrespective of the political formations.
And he would be on the ballot, is that what you're saying?
I believe he would be, his intent would be to be on the ballot.
All right. Lastly, as we wrap it up, there are a few things that many Kenyans may not know about you. We're giving you a chance to tell them something that people don't know about you.
They don't know that you and I are Adventists, and very devout Adventists.
By the way.
And that Saturday we generally shut down, unless you're going to church, or unless you're doing, or as the Bible says, ng'ombe imeanguka kwa mtaro. Yeah. Yes. But generally on Saturdays we dress well and carry our Bibles and go to church and just sing from the Adventist hymnals. They probably don't know that I love the Adventist hymnals. When I was young, I used to be in the church choir. My brother TJ Kajwang is still in the church choir, Nairobi Central, and sometimes he conducts the choir. We're just normal guys, just ordinary guys who found themselves in the leadership space. But we still do things, the old-fashioned way, devotion, family. I play a little bit of tennis. That perhaps nobody knows. Yeah, because you have to balance. All the noise we make in Parliament, you have to balance. I believe in that concept of rest and Sabbath. Yeah, perhaps that's one thing that people might not know.
You're a lawyer as well?
Everyone believes I'm a lawyer. I am not. I am an information scientist. I studied information technology, and I recall when Facebook was being established, when Google was being set up, we were right in the mix. You see the way now it's big to talk AI and robotics. every kid wants to do AI and robotics. When I was going to the university, the option was to become a lawyer, and my father refused, saying that there were too many lawyers in the family. And so I went for IT. And so I remember studying Boolean logic, which was the basis, the search engine, the original Google search engine was based on Boolean logic. And I mean, it was interesting. It was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, so I studied IT. People don't know that I worked at the Nation Media Group as an intern at some point.
You're a journalist like us.
I was a reporter for a publication called The Weekly Advertiser. It collapsed, but there used to be something called The Weekly Advertiser. I was a features writer. I worked with Nation Media Group at some point on the show called Up Close and Candid. I think it was Wahome Mushiri. I was a researcher on the show. But I've also worked in tech. I've done a lot of projects in financial services, particularly insurance, investments, and trusts. I've also done huge tech projects in supply chain. Mm-hmm. At some point, I was with DHL, and you know, DHL is the global leader in supply chain. So we're dealing with huge IT projects, integrating with Diageo, Unilever, Safaricom. So that's why perhaps my politics is more corporate. My politics is more of algorithms rather than noise.
Yeah.
If I was a lawyer, maybe I would be noisier. That I've left to my brothers and Akina Sifuna. But now that I've got that tech background, I think it requires you to be more logical, more procedural, and more algorithmic in your politics.
Football clubs?
Well, I support Arsenal. My son supports Man City.
Surely.
So it's an interesting, setup.
Do you think you'll win something this season?
Yeah, I think we are beating Man City in Carabao. Starting with that, we are taking the league. We are taking the Champions League
and FA.
This is our year. All in honor of Raila.
That's where we end it.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
This must be a Man U guy.
Yeah, I'm a Manchester United fan.
The only thing
biggest club in the whole world.
Yeah,
parts of heaven.
I think you are only happy when you beat Arsenal once in a while.
We did that.
Yeah, once in a while.
Anyway,
through a handball.
Anyway, that is up for discussion. So that's the time we had for you on this show today. It's been quite lengthy, but a lot of information about how governors handle their staff, how wanafanya ukora huko. And also just trying to understand the politics and also the person that is the senator for Homa Bay and the chairperson of CPAC, Moses Kajwang. And that's the time that we had for you on this show today. Until next week, Sunday, same time, same place. Have a good evening.
Checkmate.